The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We all know there was a report into lead in the soil in Point Douglas, Weston and elsewhere. The report was written 10 years ago, tabled a year ago, but only received public attention in September. The impression may be of 10 years of inaction, but the details of the report show the problem is clearly much worse. The introduction to that report and its details refer to unpublished data of the Manitoba government going back to the early 1980s. This includes unpublished data from 1988-1989 showing very high levels of lead and other metals on Sutherland Avenue. Since these reports were available to researchers of the department 10 years ago, will this government release that unpublished report about lead in the soil?
The Honourable First Minister.
The member is right to refer to the cover-up of these results for a significant period of time, but he should give credit to this minister and he should give credit to this government for the proactivity of dealing with the issue by ordering retesting, by making sure that that full lab analysis is done, and by committing to releasing those results in December of this year.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a supplementary question.
It's not clear to me that the Premier is referring to tests in Weston or in Point Douglas. But I asked about these unpublished reports, Madam Speaker, because I was contacted over the weekend by Dr. Eva Pipp, a professor of toxicology,
my neighbor,
who did tests on Sutherland in the 1980s. She's here in the gallery today.
Oh. And
there was an article about these tests, which I tabled. In the 1980s, acceptable levels of lead were higher, and the levels measured would be 100 times what would be considered acceptable today, including contamination in vegetables grown in gardens. In the last 30 years, up to now, has there been any effort at remediation or notifying the affected neighbourhoods in Weston or Point Douglas?
The Honourable First Minister.
I'm not really clear, Madam Speaker. The member is referring to Point Douglas specifically and solely, or to Weston and the example in his riding of St. Boniface in combination with all three. I'm not sure. But I will say this. The previous inquiries from people in the area that he now represents were dismissed by the previous government.
That's right.
The people themselves were referred to as troublemakers and problem causers. This minister took the initiative to listen, took the initiative to act, acted promptly, and acted in a manner which shows respect for the people of his riding, and I'm sure he'd want to thank her for that.
Hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a final supplementary.
Madam Speaker, if there's a common feeling in this House, it is that we are all frustrated with the challenges we've inherited. I haven't referred to political parties at all in these questions. I haven't pointed a finger of blame, because the people I talk to don't care about who is to blame. They want something done. As opposition, we can ask questions and make amendments, but it is up to this government to act, and we need to do more than just engage in testing. When I look at these reports of lead and other toxic metals, I see a pile of terrible mistakes with terrible consequences, and all I can think of is the people who were exposed to it and didn't know. Those people elected us, and they trusted us to protect them and to do something about it.
moving right along.
We know that what is required is widespread testing, public information, and remediation in the affected communities, and it is needed now. Can the government and will the government commit not just to testing, but to remediation and letting people know what they can do to keep themselves safe?
The Honourable First Minister.
I do, Madam Speaker, appreciate the mini lecture on my responsibilities as an elected official, as I'm sure all members of the House do, from the newly elected member. But that being said, we have taken action, Madam Speaker, on this issue, and we will continue to delve deeper, and we will continue to work in an accountable and transparent way to address these and many other issues, which we did inherit and which were not dealt with in the same manner. The culture of cover-up now being over, Madam Speaker, we will deal with these issues cooperatively, and I appreciate the members' inquiries on this important issue.
Sure.